Hey, and welcome to Shades of Blue podcast, United States' most comprehensive podcast covering men's and women's and EDS football, baby. We out here covering all 4 time zones from the Mississippi River to the Pacific. My name is Crunk Chocolate. I'm here with Charlie. Very soon, Tom Bomb will be here, and we have a special guest here with us, Saul of Bitter and Blue. How is it going?
Good. Thank you guys for having me on. I've been listening to you guys since you guys started, so great to be on.
I appreciate it. First thing I want to say for people who aren't watching, when you popped on, you're a lot younger than I thought you'd be, and I guess that's a good thing. I just wasn't expecting it. It's just like, oh, all right, cool. This is cool. This is fun.
Yeah, I get that a lot. We've done other podcasts and they've thought similar stuff.
Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate that. First things first, if you're listening and you haven't yet, please rate and review the episode, specifically a review. Like, that's what really helps. The rating, that's something, but the review, that boosts us up. So give us a little boost. Follow us on the social media, Shades of Blue Pod on Twitter. There's a TikTok, Shades of Blue Podcast. It's really just posting the things I post on our Twitter page onto TikTok in TikTok version. So there's that. So let's get to the fun. For people, listeners who don't know, I am a new writer for Bitter and Blue, and I have no problem asking people questions and being told no. So I was just like, hey, would you mind being on a podcast episode? And to my surprise, he said yeah, and been a gamer ever since, and that is most dope of you. So give you a moment on the mic. Tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I've been with Bitter and Blue. We're going on. This is our 6th season covering City. I've been co-managing editor now about 2 years. This will be the 3rd. And yeah, became a City fan a while back, so I think it's really cool that the community in the U.S. has been growing so much. And it's really great to see different podcasts. You guys, Main Road, a couple others. So it's really cool.
How did you get in the whole Bitter and Blue, writing in general? Have you always been someone into like sports journalism, or did you start somewhere else and then you ended up pivoting?
Yeah, so ever since I graduated high school, I've been wanting to do some type of journalism. I've written for like FanSided, DraftKings, a couple other big places. But soccer's always been number one, especially now it's especially Premier League, but it used to be MLS, Liga MX, what else? La Liga. So yeah, it's always been a thing I've been interested in. I've been writing since my freshman year of college. So
are you a City fan? And I don't mean to like say that to insult you, but there are City contributors out there who aren't necessarily City fans. So I just figured
Yes, I am a City fan. That's an interesting story there. Actually, before, when I was younger, I would only follow Liga MX because that's where my family's from. We were big Pumas fans, so that's pretty much all I had followed until I bought FIFA. And that's really my introduction back in like 06, 05, something like that. And then from there, I started playing with different teams, and then I found this one guy named Sergio Aguero. I was like, oh, this guy's cool. And started playing with him a lot, scoring goals, stuff like that. And then he signed for City, and that's when soccer started getting more, available because you could watch more stuff. Back then it was basically behind a paywall. And then Aguero jumped to City, and I'm like, that's it. City's my team. I'm going with Aguero where he's going. And now we're here. I think today or tomorrow is actually the anniversary of when he signed, so it's actually pretty cool we're recording.
So I'll make sure to see if I can make some like cool cut over. I just made one today, so I'm all inspired. I'm like, how many more of these can I make? Content, baby. But that is a very dope, because one of the things that I feel like I ask people how they become City fans, and that's a relatively new one, where Aguero brought you to City, whereas maybe people are fans of Aguero, like they see him in a City shirt and they saw how he played or something like that. But thanks. It's good to have some new versions of this story.
Yeah, those are always fun to listen to, the origin stories.
So, yeah, and I could really hear those all day. So tell us a little bit more about Bitter and Blue. You said it's been going for 6 years. It's part of SB Nation,
Yeah.
correct?
The blog's actually a little older, it's like 10 years, I would say. And then they joined SB Nation, and I've been in.
Okay.
This will be my 6th season, so yeah, we do a pretty good job covering the team. At least we try to.
A little braggadocious for you. Let's try to get some of that out of you. Why should City fans come to Bitter and Blue for
Yeah, I
content?
think the number one thing is we have some good opinion guys. Both me, we have this guy Emmanuel, and then Mank Pete, who is the other managing editor. I think some of our opinion stuff's pretty good, and then also some of our tribute ones. Especially recently, we had Zinchenko leave, Gabriel Jesus, and Sterling, of course. And some of that stuff was really fun to write. The thank you, I guess you can call them letters. So that's kind of the stuff we try to do, something a little bit different on top of all the aggregation stuff, match recaps, interviews, quotes, stuff like that. So we do a little bit of everything.
I've really noticed, Saul, like over the past about 18 months that Bitter and Blue has really also stepped up their women's coverage of Manchester City. What kind of got you into stepping up that coverage as well?
I think we just wanted to be fair. We had a couple women in England that were covering the team that were doing a great job, but then they kind of found other opportunities, and we wanted to keep that coverage going. So between me and Pete, we've been kind of trying to team up to get that coverage be as consistent as possible. I think we've done a good job. We had an article last year when they lost to Real Madrid that really did well, and we saw like, oh, this actually is not like a lot of people think it's a waste of time, and obviously it's not. As you guys know, doing the women's Euros pods, and so it's great to cover that also, especially now that the team is basically brand new with like 18 new players. It feels like.
Yeah, that midfield's going to be real interesting. Gareth has a big job ahead of him this season.
Yeah, for sure. Although maybe he should leave, but that's a different topic.
Well, you can keep preaching that gospel to me, and I'll just hallelujah. So,
a couple of things: the Lavelle thing, the Walsh, who else? Weir. There's a bunch of different like individual stuff that he's done. That's kind of not just me. I know it's a lot of City fans. I've seen it on Twitter. But we'll see. It's a new season, so as long as they get into Champions League, we'll see.
Yeah, that's the mission.
So, Saul, when it comes to, choosing what topics to write about, what goes into the process for you as a managing editor?
Well, I think aggregation has been a big focus, especially transfer stuff. We want to keep the fans updated, but also we try to do more creative stuff. Like last season, we were doing 3 predictions for the season. We had fans try to commentate with us, and I think some of that stuff's really worked. Trying to do more of that in the future. But yeah, it's a lot of aggregation, quotes, and trying to figure out what people want to hear. And obviously transfers is a big part of that.
Tom asked how you seem to have widened what you talked about in Bitter and Blue, and mentioned our Euros pod. And pre-pod, I was mentioning how that really is kind of a focus of us to try to make sure we broaden what we talk about, and our numbers, like you said in that article about Real, it shows people are interested, people are hungry, and maybe it's a slow start, but that's just because they're not so much used to that content and that interest. So they need to be, I hate the word, but programmed to be like, all right, now I know that this is the place where I can go for this content. So now I need to go to this place for that content. Good on you. And we're going to keep it up too. It's needed. And like Ian said after the England match, like if what the Lionesses are doing right now doesn't inspire coaches to let the girls play football with the boys or right after the boys or together separately, like if this doesn't inspire England to truly embrace women's sports, women's soccer, I don't really know what it is. I'm here for it. I can't really act like I've been on this, fighting for women's soccer for a long time. I've watched it because I grew up playing rugby, and what I learned quickly was women's rugby oftentimes was more entertaining than the men's. So that was like the first thing that was just like, all right, we got to respect. And then just women's basketball, they're way better technically than the men's. Yeah. We just jump higher. So, we have that explosion. But there's an easy way to appreciate women's sports if you just take the time to watch. You're going to be like, oh my God. And watching Tom and Charlie tweet about all of the women's competition has been really great, and it's been inspiring me. And I'm find myself looking up replays and stuff because I'm not really out and about watching the games. So it's raising my interest, and I hope that it's just raising interest everywhere.
Yeah, and I think England specifically have, not to hype them up too much, but have Manchester City to thank a lot for that, because they've done a fantastic job infrastructure wise. I think a lot of especially the grassroots stuff, getting the girls from 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 starting to play academy soccer, and then I don't know if you guys saw, like 3 or 4 months ago, the United women were like that terrible condition that they were playing under. They were lacking staff like up and down the roster. So I think City have done a really well job of trying to get everyone up to their level, which is not crazy, right? It's the same level as the men. It's having a nutritionist, a chef, stuff like that. So not to toot their own horn, but England have City to thank for a lot of the success now, especially half the team has played or are playing for City. So.
Yeah, and like on top of that, you have, even in America now, more investment into the WSL. As Tom said on the last pod, with Paramount Plus getting the rights from NBC. And a lot of times in sports, you can just follow the money. If there's competition for rights, because they easily could have let NBC, just keep those rights like they've always had them. But now that they're trying to bring them into the fold, along with their NWSL coverage and CONCACAF W and all that, like, you see that now the business side is saying, hey, show this to people. Because when you think about it, every family has little girls and moms who might have played soccer growing up. And, you want to show that, hey, you can play too, just like your brother. So it's pretty cool to see coverage from Bitter and Blue and, our place, like trying to make sure that everybody gets what they want. It's pretty dope.
And Saul, that's a really cool call out by you about the academy. And if you see the products of the academy through Georgia Stanway, through Lauren Hemp, through Ruby Mace, through Kiera Keating, and what they're doing for the English senior team and the English U19 team, that's a really good call out by you, just their academy infrastructure leading the Lionesses to so much success.
It's really about just leveling the playing field. It's nothing out of this world, right? Something that should have been done. I think the WSL is not that old, but it should have been right away, not 10 years into it. But, yeah.
Transfers, we're in the middle of the summer. How are you feeling about Man City and the transfer moves they made? You mentioned on the women's, naturally, it's been very dramatic and seeing a lot of our faves leave. And luckily, they've done a good job at bringing in some great players. And it honestly helps me because, again, I'm still relatively new. So learning a bunch of names isn't the most difficult thing for me. But how do you feel about the women's side? And then you can transition to the men's. How are you feeling about these new look teams on both sides, actually?
Yeah, I think starting with the women, I think I don't know if I would say it was needed. But I think Taylor wanted to have his players in. So I guess City's actually going to back him 100%, getting him who he wants. I really like Castellanos. She's pretty much a 10. And she's really, really good. She just, in Copa America, was doing incredible. And then also, I think they signed a center mid whose name I'm blanking on yesterday. She plays for the Dutch national team. She's also pretty good. And I think the other pieces are going to slowly come in. I think City have pretty much a starting team, and they needed some depth, especially with Champions League, which is, I know City want to win both men's and women's. And last year was a terrible year. They got eliminated before they even got into it, basically. So I think the moves have been necessary to back Taylor. Whether that'll work, that's a different story, but I think they were needed. So, and then going to the men's, I love this window. Julian Alvarez has been incredible in preseason. Erling Haaland hasn't played a ton, but we know what he is. He's a Norwegian robot, so he's going to be incredible this season. I hope he starts Saturday, but we'll talk about that a little later. And yeah, we just need a left back, pretty much. Although I like Wilson Esbrand. He's been playing really well these last couple of friendlies, but we'll see. I like Cucurella, but he's 50 mil that's a lot of money, even though City have it, of course, and they've sold a bunch. So we'll see. But Pep and Cheeky, they know what they're doing.
So for you, is it Cucurella or bust, or is another left back in addition to Wilson Esbrand sufficient?
I don't think we necessarily need him. I know I saw today there was links with Grimaldo, our good friend Les Owens. You guys know him from Twitter. Yeah, he was hyping him up a little bit. I like Grimaldo, and he wouldn't be that expensive, 20 mil ish. But I don't think it's Cucurella or Buzz. I think Wilson Nesbran can do the job, especially if Cancelo's going to play there a lot of the season. Although he might play winger, as some City fans have said.
So,
Who knows?
Saul, in your years of following transfers and these types of, negotiating battles, do you see it as like people just trying to negotiate through the media? Because my first instinct was like, they put out that Grimaldo stuff to try to get Brighton, like, a little worried. Like, hey, you set this price at 50, we can get somebody from 20. We don't need, this business. What do you think about, like, how the club's posture through these leaks that come out?
I think City is starting to finally get adjusted that they're a world's player, right? They're an elite team. They're not, no disrespect to Brighton, but they're not a Brighton. They actually compete with world powers. They compete with the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, the Bayerns, the Parises. And I think Grimaldo specifically, he was quoted to other teams at like 7 mil, and then now it's 20 because City came in. So David Raum too, who plays in Hoffenheim, same thing. He was quoted at like 10, 12, and now they want 25 or 30 for him from City. So I think it's a little bit of both. Definitely the agent and whoever's trying to sell the player want as much money.
So is there a way City can break that city tax nonsense? Like, what can we do? Is it that we maybe buy one or two more players and then just don't buy any more players for a few years and try to work on the academy, or any person who tries to do anything like Brighton again, we just out loud just go, we're no longer dealing with this stuff? Because it's just incredibly frustrating watching players' values double and triple just because City are interested. But then they will also say, we can't sell Zinchenko and Gabriel for the prices that we are just because they played for City. So it's kind of like people try to have their cake and they eat it too. So it's like, why can't we get the same benefit of the doubt?
Yeah, I think it starts with winning, right? That usually solves a lot of problems. City win another 3, 5, 7, 9, 10 years. People are going to want to come to City, similar to Barcelona, Madrid, Bayern. They start forcing moves there, and it's more either you sell me or I'm walking for free. So I think stuff like that, winning solves a lot of issues. And City obviously are well set up currently now with Pep and after Pep to keep succeeding. I think that's the only way they're going to be able to shed this. Especially we're seeing Newcastle now. They're struggling to buy anyone, let alone one player. So I think City have done a really good job trying to undercut the market, signing lesser known players. Like when they signed KDB, everyone thought he was going to be a flop, right? Other players like that. Fernandinho, no one expected him to be one of the best center D-mids ever in the Premier League. And then, of course, we have the release clauses. Erling Haaland, and then a couple other players. I think Cancelo was signed off a release clause. Ruben Diaz, too. So utilizing some of those lesser-known players that are easier to sign with a release clause, I think, has bode well for City. So I think those are some of the ways they're trying to mitigate the.
And it's interesting, like, looking at how things happen in the ecosystem of transfers. Most of these leagues are still recovering from COVID, right? And so everybody knows the PL is very profitable. It has the most money to spend. So, like, when you compare, like, okay, where can I send my players to get the biggest returns? You want to send them to the Premier League, because if you send them to, Ligue 1 in France, or even, Serie A, they don't have the bread that the PL have. And so, like, with Nunez, when he went to Liverpool way overpaid. He was not worth, 80-something million pounds. Like, that's a crazy number, especially when you think about City getting Haaland for 51. So it's not just City, I feel like, Crunk. I think, like, everybody in the PL is getting that tax of, like, you got to pay up, and but, like, we set records this year, right? Like, we have had the most successful selling summer in PL history. So now people are like, okay, you have the money. So it's like, I want City to throw some bread around. Let's do it. Let's make them happy. Let's get the best players and let's be happy,
Yeah, that's a great point. Just give them the 50 mil, right? They've raised like 175 million pounds between January and now. So why not, right? I agree, but there's a lot of haters online that are going to disagree very, very heavily with you. And then also about the Premier League, the they're basically a super league, right? Everyone's up in arms about last year the super league, but that's what the PL is. I think West Ham yesterday or today they signed Gianluca Scamacca, who played in Serie A. He's one of their best young strikers, and Milan couldn't afford him, Inter couldn't afford him, and where does he go? West Ham. None of the top six could get him. It was West Ham. Nothing against West Ham, but it's not, Milan is a historic team, Juve too, and neither one could get him. So money's real in the PL.
I don't know. I'm still on that West Ham is going to be in the top six this year. So I don't know. I feel like they're going to phase United out on that front. But
yeah, that's a really good prediction. I like that one. I also like Spurs, although I hate Spurs, but I like how they always beat us, and so they're probably going to be top 4 or 3 again. So.
Tottenham is the team that I low-key hate the most. So, Community Shield is coming up on Saturday. First off, Danielle said in yesterday's episode, or the other day's episode, about how he thinks, Pep he counts this as a trophy. Jurgen, he believes he's going to take it very seriously. They, in their respective countries, they have like a Super Cup type of event, and that's basically what the Community Shield is. And it's not taken that serious in England. Why do you think that's so? Do you take it seriously yourself? Is there a way? Because I think we should take it very seriously. It's the best way to start your season is with a trophy and beating another team. And in theory, it's always going to be a good team because they're a champion in their own rights. So there's no better way to start the season. So I love the idea of City coming in and putting their best 11 out there and trying to beat Liverpool down.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess I gave you a bunch of questions. So just start wherever.
Yes, Community Shield is important. I think the other countries do value it more, but I think the PL is really all or bust with the Premier League and the Champions League. The cups have kind of been, I guess disrespected would be the best word. They call them tin pot trophies, stuff like that, or Mickey Mouse. Especially City when they win the Carabao Cup, or even the FA Cup, they call it the Mickey Mouse Trophy. So it's not surprising that when whatever team ends up winning it, they claim it's a real trophy, and then anyone else wins it and it's not. So I think the Shield is important, and especially for City, they lost last year, right? They lost to Leicester, so I think they're going to want to take it seriously, especially if it's against Liverpool, it's against Klopp. So I think Pep's going to want to win this one as bad as Klopp will. So I hope for a good game, though. And Haaland to play. I want to see him a lot this season.
So you had said about Julian Alvarez, and we saw him play up top in Houston. I think one of the things that we had discussed on the pod was maybe him kicking him out right more often on the other side of Haaland. Is that something that you see within his skill set, or do you think that just based off of the preseason match, he's just going to be more of Haaland's backup than anything else?
Both. Pep loves rotating. We all know that, especially at inopportune times, a lot of the times, but he does love rotating. And so I can see Haaland on the right instead of Alvarez on the right instead of Mahrez, Haaland up top. And I could also see a 3-man back with Haaland and Alvarez as strikers. So I think we'll see Alvarez a decent amount, probably over 20 games in and out in the Premier League. So
naturally we have the Haaland theme song, but naturally for Alvarez, because we think he's going to have a hot season, I got a soundbite for him too.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
We out here. I had to, because I know it's going to happen, and I got Gucci. I'm just going to slowly and try to figure out a quick little quip or theme song for every player on City. So Saul, if anyone or a song pops up in your head, feel free to just be like, this song for this person, and pop up. Yeah. I need all the help I can get with these sound bites.
Yeah, I'm sure throughout the season we'll think of some. I think when Alvarez scores a goal and he puts on that Spider-Man mask, the stadium's going to go insane. So I'm looking forward to that.
Very much so. Predictions for the Community Shield. What do you think the scoreline is going to be? Who do you think is going to be the winner?
I think City's going to win. Things are going to win fairly easily. Liverpool had as much change as City. I don't think Klopp is as good as Pep, so I think City's gonna take this one. And I want a Holland brace, 2-0. That's what I got. I also think that, especially this season, Pep's gonna experiment a little more. But I think for Saturday, he's gonna go old school 4-3-3, what we've been doing since he's got there. So.
Now, do you like the idea of dropping Bernardo deeper in the midfield and giving KDB more space to operate? Because it seems like that was what Pep used down the stretch of last season, and based off of what we saw in the preseason, it's going to stay the same.
Yeah, I'd probably expect that. Although Gundogan, KDB's looked better next to Gundogan a lot of the last season, but I do think Bernardo's going to drop a little more, play more as an 8, more as a pivot between Rodri and KDB. I also think a monster season with Haaland. Someone finally able to finish those crosses. I know we tweet a lot of Cross FC when things aren't going so well. So hopefully it'll be different this season.
So expectations for the season, are we doing a three-peat? Is this back to back to back? Do you think it's going to be a tight season like the previous one? Or Darwin Núñez, he does not look the smoothest transitioning into Liverpool. I feel like that's the easiest way to say that. And Chelsea don't look like they're going to, like, things look very rocky right now. There are a lot of stories leaking of how much of an asshole Tuchel is, and I'm loving every second of it. So, yeah, what are your expectations of City this season and overall for the Premier League?
I think selfishly, I want everything. I want all 5 championships or titles, right? But I think realistically, I'd be happy with any of the PL or champions and one of the other ones, right? So a two trophy season, I think, would be ideal. Even I know a lot of people won't agree, but I think Pep needs that UCL. We need that UCL, and we need one of the cups, and that would be an incredible season, even if we don't win the Prem. Although I do think the Prem is more likely than winning all 4. So, but yeah, I'm excited for the season. It's gonna be a lot of fun with all the turnover that's happened.
You're saying very much what I'm saying. I would prioritize the Champions League over the Premier League this season, and that's basic blasphemy to many City fans saying that. How do you feel about that? Would you sacrifice the Premier League trophy for the Champions League just this season? I'm not saying do it ever again, but this season.
Yeah, I think we. I don't know if we have to, but I think it has to be in the minds of all of us. That's why I think Haaland was brought in. I don't think Pep's gonna strain him a lot. He's gonna rest him a good amount, which is why I think Alvarez is gonna play at striker a lot. He needs him for Champions League, right? We need a killer for the semifinal and the final. Those 3 games are pretty much the most important of the season, and that's when we need Haaland at his peak. That's when we need him rounding into form at 100%. So that's why I think City, in order to get there, right, he's gonna have to play a lot less than he did last season with Dortmund, even though he was injured like half the year.
I am not, for people to also get up in arms, I'm not saying we need to sacrifice, but there's always that like either or question that pops up on social media, which one? So I would love for us to win all the trophies. That was my like hot take for this year, is we're winning it all, like no mercy. What were you about to say, Charlie?
No, I was just gonna say, like, when it comes for Haaland, or to Haaland being fit at the end of the Champions League campaign, he's gonna get a nice rest during the World Cup. Like, that is one of the biggest blessings in disguise of, like, my man gets to go home and chill for 4 weeks. Like, he'll get through the first, 16 or whatever games they have before the break, and then in November, and then like when he comes back, I know the schedule gets crazy because that's when all the cups start, and starting in the second in 23. But I do see, like, y'all are starting to swing me. I'm normally a PL person, like PL only. I don't care. I want to get as close to Man U as possible. I want to take over Chelsea's spot. I want to make that record go away. But I'm starting to get convinced that, like, this year, if that happens, because we have the longevity, like, the CL could be really special. Because I know I was heartbroken when we lost to Chelsea. Like, making it to a final and losing sucked. Losing to Real Madrid like we did was horrible. So I don't want to get my hopes up. But of course, if we make it to the semifinals, I'm gonna be all in. Like, we got it. So shit, it's very stressful out here. Like, I don't know how to handle this very well.
Yeah, there's just something about the UCL, right? In Spanish, they call it La Orejona. So there's just something incredibly special about winning it. And then going back, I think the World Cup is going to be a huge pickle for a lot of the elite teams, especially. I think City's going to have probably like 30 players, and then I think like 21 of them are going to the World Cup. So it's going to be crazy couple months.
So I know we've talked about the men. What are you seeing for the women's side? I know that Conti Cup winners last year finished third in the league last year. I know that Chelsea made a lot of improvements, probably brought the best center back in the world in Khadija Buchanan. Do you think that Gareth's side is going to be equipped to catch them for the WSL title? Should they be looking more into making sure that they defend their Conti Cup and challenge for the FA Cup? What are your expectations, and what competitions should the women prioritize?
I think it has to start with champions. They need to get past this round. I know last year it was a massive disappointment for a lot of fans that they didn't get past into the groups. Champions League first. We need to get into that next round, and then make it as far as they can in the Conti and the FA. And I think WSL has to be a priority. They have to try to win it. I think this is make it or break it year for Gareth Taylor. In many cities' eyes, and I hope it's management's too. So I think that's where we start, and then we'll see how the new signings fit in. But I think with Ellen White and a couple of the other established players are already there, and hopefully Houghton is. I think that's how you say it. Houghton has a clean bill of health and is available the whole season. I think we'll be all right. Although I don't know if you guys heard me the other part too. Sorry, that some are predicting City won't even finish top 5, which I think is a little too much, but we'll see. I hope they're wrong, of course. So we'll see.
That seems ludicrous, because the only 3 teams that I would that in the least of the WSL that I would think about putting above them would be Chelsea, Arsenal, and maybe United. I don't think that Tottenham or Reading is ready to take that leap to jump us yet. So I don't know who's saying that, but I don't believe them.
Last question, at least from me. Pep could potentially leave. Who would the replacement be? Do you think you would see him as?
I think I would like Luis Enrique. He manages Spain. I think he'd be a good. He's not old. He's not young. He's about right. And I think after this World Cup, and I hope Pep stays till 2026, and we might get that in the next month or next season. But if he doesn't, I think Luis Enrique would be a great pick. And then someone on the younger side, I think Nagelsmann is always the trendy pick, but I think he'd work here. So maybe in 3 or 4 years after Pep leaves, Nagelsmann takes over. Especially Bayern City seems to be a trend, or vice versa with Sané. So.
Well, any of you two have any more questions?
No, I think we covered a lot of it. I just have to say, I think once I started following City, one of the first accounts on Twitter that I followed was Bitter and Blue, and I remember it was a big day when Bitter and Blue followed me back. So I appreciate you for helping me grow my fandom. I think that's really cool.
No, we appreciate all the support. I know Crunk's gonna do great work with us. That the Tom Thibodeau article last week was a great start. So I appreciate the support.
Is there anything else that we didn't ask about Bitter and Blue that you want to get off? You want to flex on some of these other Man City, accounts and stuff like that, or you just want to be the nice stand-up gentleman you have been this entire episode? But I just wanted to give you the open platform to talk your shit.
No, I think we're good, but I do think there's always a niche for stuff like us, somewhere where the fans can go and get some interesting content, not necessarily the aggregation exclusively, like the City Extras and the City Reports of the world, which are great and needed, obviously. But I think getting some of that fan ideas and stories and stuff like that's a great thing for a team like City, especially with the support in the U.S. growing as it is. I know you guys saw on Saturday, I think someone from the pod was there, with like 80,000 at Green Bay at Lambeau. Which is incredible, right?
Yeah, I was in Houston and Tarek was in Green Bay, and they released the numbers, attendance numbers, and Man City had two of the biggest sports performances, attendances in the U.S. this year. So I would love to believe that this will become a trend. What I didn't know, and that I'm just now finding out, is how upset English City fans are about the availability that the players have been given, like the close practice and all those other things. Like City fans don't get in England, I guess they don't get chances like that. So they were up in arms about this whole situation. And I guess this is one more question. How do you feel about that? Do you like? Obviously, I understand their pain, but also we don't get the opportunities that they get. So, of course, when they're here for 2 days, they're going to be as open and available as possible. So, I guess, how do you feel about on that this whole circumstance?
Yeah, I think that just comes down more to like English journal or English, I guess, culture and American culture. Over there, no one's allowed in the locker room, right? But here in NFL and NBA, they're right in the players' grills after games. They're inside the locker room, getting quotes, getting other stuff, and seeing it extend to the fans. Here, anyways, is great for us, but obviously over there where they're similarly restricted, I can see how it rubs them the wrong way. But they get to see them every week, right? We don't. We see them maybe once a summer if we're lucky. So, and I did see them a couple years ago when they came to Miami, and that was Bayern, City versus Bayern, and that was an incredible time, and I haven't seen them since. So,
Well, you want to plug yourself / Bitter and Blue real quick, sir? Let people know how to follow you on social media, read, get a website, all those fun things.
yeah. The website's bitterandblue.com. Myself, Kronk, we have a great team of writers now. Manuel and Mank P are really good with us. And then follow us on Twitter at bitterandblue1. Don't forget the one. And we'll have some great stuff coming for the Community Shield, and then also previewing the season next week. So, which I can't believe it's already here. It's barely July, and we're starting Premier League. So.
Absolutely. You can find me on the twitter.com at TomBomb816. That's THOMBOMB 816.
Follow me on Twitter at CWMSIV, Sharpie Charlie.
And
you don't mind? Let me put a personal Twitter. You guys want to follow me?
Yeah, totally.
At Saul_434. I got a lot of. I don't tweet only soccer, but you guys, it's a fun time over there too. So.
Hey, and I am Crunk Chocolate at Crunk Chocolate, CRUNKCHOCOLATE. Make sure you rate and review the episode. Check our backlog of episodes. We have Represent. We have Euros. We just out here. We just content season. It's hot. This episode that you're listening to right now, this was the 5th in a week. What are we up to? We're just crazy guys. Just a couple of crazy guys. But you know the vibes. Shady gang, shady gang, shady gang.